I had some struggle in life. Sometimes I have to share some tears. I said grace. Grace is better than that, y'all. I got the Father. Y'all better share, share. Tell somebody, call somebody, tell somebody else. Yep. Now y'all know we love the gospel. Go on and call somebody, tell somebody. We got the police in the building, y'all. Don't be playing this moment. Hey! All right. Here we go. Listen, y'all. If y'all missed a treat last night, let me tell y'all should have been there last night when Reverend Gray, John Gray, was there and he preached about leftovers. Oh man, that thing was so good. And then I got to admit, man, I don't know about that old Kevin Dawson, but it looked like he tried to come through every now and then with some food. You know, I'm a fat boy, so you feed me, you got me. I don't you got to watch it. Baby, you got to watch it now. You out here feeding folks. If you get the folks' stomach now, they say, listen, this is what they say. Now, a woman, a way to get to a man is through his stomach. I don't know if his grandmama or somebody might have tried to teach him that. But he out here feeding folks, y'all got to watch that. Another interesting thing that happened yesterday was we had a forum. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm going to be real nice because we got Lieutenant Owens up in here, and now my conservative Republican cousin that came in this black conservative woman that always talk about us black folks bad.
I do not.
Whatever. Anyway.
I love black people.
Oh, that's what she says. She don't sound like it sometimes. But anyway, we had a forum yesterday, and that forum consisted of all the mayor candidates, all the commissioner candidates, and it was phenomenal. I'm not going to lie. The MVP of that was McCray. McCray, you know, he brought up a whole bunch of interesting things. And the MVP of the questions was about the Citizens Review Board. And it just so happened that today we got Lieutenant Owens here that we will be talking about that. But before we even get started on that, we want to know something about you, Lieutenant. We want to know who you are, what you are, when you did, what you did, what you did. You want to tell us that you did?
Well, one of the one thing that you need
Tell
to
me
do
to
about
that
me
mic. I want you to get that. Yeah, they
is that I am a product of this community. I've grown up here for 40 years.
homegrown.
Graduated from Dothan High School.
Homegrown.
2004. I've been policing here for 18 years. My father policed here for 27 before
You've
that.
been police here for 18 years?
18 years already.
I mean, you locked me up before, man.
Probably not.
I don't remember you, though.
Probably not. That's a good thing if you don't remember me.
That's good.
And then my grandfather, for about 20 years before that, died in line of duty.
Wow,
Third
wow.
generation.
So
I care a lot about this community.
So you come from a legacy of police officers and law enforcement.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. Now tell us something you like to do, man.
Off time, spending time with the family. That's really where I get down, and I like to spend my time. We hang out in the pool. I take my 13-year-old to go play golf. He's really into golf. For some reason, he wasn't that athletic to play other sports, so golf kind of stuck with him. I got a 2-year and a 4-year-old at home, so they take up most of my time. Yeah,
you did terrible 2s and 3s. You better get ready.
That's
I'm
right.
60 years old with a 3-year-old, bro. Now I'm really, I'm tired now. But anyway, let me say this to you, Lieutenant. We started about 3-4 months ago. We started called Unified Dothan, me and Bridget McCarter that's on here. And Unified Dothan, we want to bring Dothan as one Dothan. We have a white Dothan, we have a black Dothan. You know about that, 2 different Dothans. But what you don't know about is the black on black Dothan. There's 3 Dothans, not 2. And the misnomer is, we got a white Dothan over here and a black Dothan over there. But a lot of people that you ain't black, so you wouldn't know that there's a black on black Dothan that we have where black folks think that they're in between white and black folks, better than other black folks. So I don't know if they think they're white folks, but they think they're better than other black folks. Explain it, cuz. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what he's talking about. All black people I know like black people. And white people.
Are you serious right now? You really gonna sit up there and say that?
Yeah.
Lord, have mercy. Anyway, let us pray. Lord, dear Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, we pray right now, dear Heavenly Father, for this show. We pray for everybody that's listening, dear Heavenly Father. We pray that your spirit will cover us all. In Jesus' name, amen. We got to pray. You just told one, then. Anyway, so, Lieutenant, we've been talking about Unified Dothan. And Unified Dothan, one of the major objectives that I have is to bring up all the stuff that we got, the ails and the problems and stuff that we have. Just wait a minute. She'll get it in a minute. Just let her get it. One of that we bring up all the stuff that's going on wrong, all the complaints people have, and hash out all that. Then we could come to the realization of our similarities and our togetherness and our unified front, right? The problem is when you bring up all these different innuendos, and you know this from law enforcement, a lot of people, you're dealing with human people and human nature. And with human nature and human people, Ashley, you went out over here. And with dealing with that, you're coming up with people that have different agendas. Some of them don't want to, they say unified. They say it out their mouth, but they don't really want to do it wholeheartedly. Or they have hidden agendas to where they want, they got some problems with law enforcement. They're bitter against it. I could have been bitter. I feel like the city of Dothan went against me. I mean, I really do feel like that. But I can't stay bitter in that because I got to move on from it. Some people can't do that. And so one of my biggest questions to you, what I want to talk about today, is how do you all in the Dothan Police Department, along with this community, because you're part of this community. Your grandfather did, your daddy did it, you did it. So you homegrown. How do we bring a cohesion between law enforcement in the community where it's not a us and them? It's not a blue line. We don't want no lines. We don't want no race lines. We don't want no class lines. We don't want no blue lines. How do we do that?
Well, I think you said it best. That in the old world of policing, especially if you go into education and you learn about policing, the community or the police are the community. And I think that's really understood of where we come from. I care about this community, every aspect, every square inch of this community, just like everybody else. And I think most officers do too. We want to partner with the community. I think there's a study I read a long time ago that 80% of people who live in communities actually want to partner with police to help their community, but they're too afraid to do so for one reason or another. So us as the police, our goal is to invite our community to get involved. And what we ask from the community is when you're invited, come get involved with us. And I think we can solve a lot of problems that way. But the only way that we do that is together, community and police together, to get the people who are committing crimes and really committing, especially the violent crimes, get those guys out of the community and off the streets. And partnering with the community is the only way we're going to do that.
That's the only way we're going to do that. What do you feel about the state of the crime in Dothan, Alabama now? How would you describe it currently?
Well, it depends on who you ask. So if you ask about perception, everybody's perception of crime is that it's high. Okay, there's more shootings now, there's more murders, there's more violent crimes. And what we do as a police department, we look at the numbers. The numbers are really going to tell us what overall, as a city government, how we're doing. And in the last 5 years, crime, especially our Part 1 crimes, which are our big crimes, has actually dropped 20%. From 23 to 24, we had a 12% drop in crime. Now, what are those Part 1 crimes? They're arsons, they're aggravated assaults, they're homicides, they're motor vehicle thefts, they're vehicle burglaries or motor vehicle thefts, and they're actually any other petty larceny. Our Part 1 crimes show that the city of Dothan is safer than it has been over the last 5 years. But what happens is you have certain communities that feel that crime more than others, right? And we're not numb to that part, that it does happen in different communities. So this is where Chief Benny, Major Glover, and Captain Davis, who's over our patrol squad, they take a very academic approach to crime. Everybody's heard about community-oriented policing, right? And we practice that to a large degree. We really try to implement that in everything that we do in law enforcement. But there's another aspect of that called problem-oriented policing. When we see hot spots pop up, we give that area a lot of attention. Okay, we saturate that area and we focus on what's called quality of life crimes, because the broken windows theory of policing is that if you focus on quality of life crimes, those broken windows will fix themselves. And what we're doing now is we're trying to find the day, the week, the month after plants broken windows. Because what's happened all too often is, and Chief Ramsey, who was a former chief of police up in Philadelphia, said it best. Broken windows, we go in there and we fix the community, right? We go in there and we fix the crime and we really saturate it and we get those bad actors out. And traditionally, back in the 80s and 90s, what we didn't do a real good job of was the day after. What do we do when the windows are fixed? Well, what police departments have been doing is continuing to focus on that area, which adversely affects people in those communities that aren't doing anything wrong. So what Chief Benny and our administration—
Say that again, please.
So what happens is you adversely affect people in that community when you continue the problem-oriented policing when there's no longer a problem.
Exactly.
Okay. So now what Chief Benny is doing, what we've really been focused on since Chief Benny's been here, is what do you do after? It's time to pull those really aggressive officers out of there, and now we put in community-oriented, and that's how you keep and fix. You fix and you keep the windows from being broken. Does that make sense? And that's, it's really a whole area of what we're looking at and how we can help the community.
I hear what you're saying, Lieutenant Owens, but one of the biggest problems that I have, and I hear in the community, is that they see the police over here in our area. And you made a very good point on when y'all see where the crime is, that's the area y'all will specialize in or make sure that y'all in the most. But what's happening is when you have the white guys and the white children and all on the other side of town, in the mall, in the parking lots over there, on the south side, I don't forget what's the name, all that over there, Roses and all that. Y'all don't mess with them. And so that's what people get confused at, because people are saying, hey, wait a minute. They come over here and mess with our children, got the helicopter and everything about our children gathering, but white kids over there gathering trucks and everything is just as many, and y'all not bothering them.
That they see.
Okay.
Now, I'll say that that's a perception issue, right? Perception is, in my community, I get this response while they're not getting anything. But I would ask, are they actually over there when those kids are over there? Are they there the entire time? Because we do address those issues. There's things called trespassing in the public parking lot, And if those businesses actually want them gone, now again, this is private property, so they have the right to enforce that. If they want those kids gone, and I know exactly who you're talking about, we do go and we handle that issue. The perception is that it's handled different, right? We're handling the white kids with kid gloves while we handle more aggressively black kids, right? That's the perception.
Right.
And I can tell you this from personal experience that nobody in the Dothan Police Department that I know of is looking at it as black kid, I need to be more aggressive, white kid, I need to take it easy. Nobody's doing that. What we do is we respond to the problems that we've been called to. We're very much a reactive force most of the time. So if we get a shots fired over here in what used to be McCray Homes, I'm used to calling McCray Homes because I've been there.
They say you need to talk to the mic more.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So
they want you to move that mic towards you. Push this down on it, or either take it out. Yeah, there you go. Right.
So when we get shots fired, it's all about responding to the type of call we have.
Right.
If we have trespassing in the parking lot, most officers aren't really all that nervous about it. But if we get a shots fired call, which may have been fireworks, there's been a lot of those going on last weekend, right?
Of course.
Our response to that is going to be different because of the danger of the call, and that may be what people see as the perception of how we handle things differently. As a law enforcement officer, we're always taught safety, right? And we're trying to focus more on, okay, we want to be safe, but then we want to back it down from the warrior mindset back down to the guardian mindset. So what I'm saying is, I think a lot of that is perception. Now, do we fall short sometimes? Yeah, every organization does. But we do, I think, a pretty good job of handling those issues when they arise.
So are y'all teaching down there what you could do as far as law compared to what you should do as far as community?
Yeah, so we have a couple different, the first thing is knowing the law, knowing the Constitution, right? Everybody's got a constitutional right to be free from search and seizure, their right to free speech, and none of those are absolute amendments, meaning that not all speech is free, right? If you go into a theater and yell fire, that's obviously you can't do that, right?
Right.
The Second Amendment also is not an absolute constitutional right, because if you are convicted of a felony, they can take your guns away, domestic violence, same thing. Your Fourth Amendment, that is the only one that's an absolute, in that you have the absolute right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. You're not free from all searches and seizures, only those that are unreasonable. Search warrants or valid exceptions to that rule make them reasonable, right? So, and what I mean is, I've lost my train of thought.
That's all right. That's all right. I do it all the time. Don't worry about it. You're getting older. You keep living.
Yeah, I'm almost 40.
Keep living. It's gonna happen.
But what we try to respect the Constitution, and it's all about what you can legally demand and what you need to ask for, right? Yeah. That's a big thing. Can I demand you do something when I have a constitutional right to do it? No, you cannot. You would need to ask for it. And if somebody says no, you need to accept that. But then there's also the ways we talk to people. Verbal de-escalation has been an increase in how we talk and how we handle people. You know, I teach at the academy and I tell them everything is a human situation. I mean, what do you mean? About hurricanes, right? Is it a human situation? No, that has to do with a big storm. I said, would you be worried about it if humans weren't involved? Well, no, I guess not. If it was out there in the Pacific, would you really worry about it? No, probably not, because it didn't involve humans. So we try to get to that point in talking to these guys early on in their careers. But of course, you know, steering a ship that's been going this way since a really long time ago is gradual course corrections, and we can't do it all overnight.
And listening to what you're saying, hold on, we got a call. Go ahead, caller. You live on the air. WKCG, Dr. Kenneth Glasgow is wrong.
To be a part of what you're doing today, good to have law enforcement in this morning. I want to ask a question to the officer there. How do you bridge the community along with the law enforcement in the city of Dothan together? Come together and have trust in you guys, and you guys have trust in them. And my second question to you is when it comes to educating as far as our young people about law enforcement, you know, one of the things I would love to see that we would have more African American law enforcement in the African American community that understand the African Americans, you know, and I think that's very important. And my third question to you is when it comes to the drug someone off the street and to reform them. Thank you. I hang up and listen to that.
All right, thank you, sir.
A three-part question.
Yes.
So the first question of partnering with the community is just like I said before, we're going to invite you to get involved. You know, if we have ways that you can get involved, especially reporting crimes. We partnered with Alabama Crime Stoppers or Central Alabama Crime Stoppers, the 215 stop. That was a big issue for us of wanting to get that information and having a pooling place for it to happen, right?
Stop right there. Are y'all working with any local organizations? One of the things that we prided in when Mike Smith was down there is that we work with law enforcement and helping to divert our children. When me and Ricky Stokes used to go at it, I called him racist, he called me racist. We went at it like Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali for years. But when the shootings started happening on the south side, and he was like, "Where's Kenny Glasgow? Ain't nobody doing nothing." So I started walking the street. We started praying. We started getting white and black people walking with me. And it started diverting some of the crime that was going on. But the local law enforcement at that time, Steve Parrish, believe it or not, was working with us. And would sit up there and patrol outside perimeter. You know what I mean by, well, y'all don't know what I mean, but anyway, you know, 4-block radius while we inside to where we could just, you know, I don't want y'all presence in here. Let us just pray with them. Are y'all working with any local organizations doing that now?
So we do work with local organizations as the need arises. One thing that Chief Benny is really pushing on right now, and he's actually put me in charge of this and kind of spearheaded, is coming up with a youth gun and crime initiative where we, if any changes in the community are probably not going to happen as quickly to adults. You need to go change the youth. The youth is where the change is going to happen. So that's one thing that we've been putting together a youth advisory board. Also, getting into schools and letting them tell us how is the best way we can reduce gun crime and violent crime in our communities. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that we're starting to kind of get going, to really focus on that gun violent crime.
But since you mentioned advisory board, let's go there. Because I was going to wait to the end, but let's go there. How do y'all feel at the police department? We done asked everybody, all the commissioners, the mayor, everybody, how they feel. How do y'all feel at the police department about the citizens advisory board?
I think it would have almost no effect on us. And what I mean by that is that we already do the things that they would be looking at. Now, our concern would be the citizens and knowing the ins and outs of law enforcement, right?
Well, one of the things that need to happen is I see now that there's a disconnect between the mayor, Mark Saliba, I'm calling you out specifically, and I'm going to go meet with him at 2:00 and tell him I said this. Well, y'all will probably tell me before I get there. But anyway, he has to understand that the police department should want the Citizen Review Board because it's going to eliminate a lot of speculation of the police department. When you got citizens sitting on there, especially people like me that are advocates, that advocate that y'all call anti-police. I am not anti-police because you mess with me, I'm calling the police. And you can call it snitching, whatever you call it. I call it telling, because I'm telling them everything. But anyway, if you do something of mine, I'm calling. But one of the things that I do is I address what's wrong. And I'm known for that. I'm an advocate of human rights. So that's what I do. But me on there would be able to eliminate any speculation of wrongdoing. Because I'll be able to say, wait a minute, hold on. Police this situation, look at this. Okay. You know what? I'm going to have to ride with them. Because I'm older now. I'm more objective now. I'm more mature now. So I'm going to look at things totally different now. That federal thing did something to me, though, too. I don't know. I got there, man, learned with them problems. I learned a lot of stuff from them guys.
And I think specifically with a Citizens Advisory Board, I think they would need training on how we look at not just police brutality. I mean, when an officer acts bad, you can pretty much see that. It's more on the use of force aspect. Is where they
that's my biggest problem is excessive use of force. And the thing what gets me is there's from what I learned when I went through the training up there in Washington, D.C., there's escalated force, right? And you can explain that now. Y'all got 3 different levels of use of
We
force.
got away from the use of force continuum a long time ago. The way that we judge our use of force is based on 3 landmark cases: Graham versus Connor, Tennessee versus Garner, and Harris versus Scott. Okay. So we look at case law to inform us on how we're supposed to act. Tennessee versus Garner said there's 4 factors that the courts are going to look for in a use of force situation. It doesn't matter if it's, voice command, if it's armbar takedown, all the way up to deadly force, right? Those 4 factors are the severity of the crime. How severe is the crime? Is it a shoplifting or is it a homicide, right? That's going to inform your decision on use of force, right? The second factor, and the most important one for the courts, is the immediacy of the threat. What was the threat of injury, serious physical injury, or death to the officer at the time or to somebody else? It can be a criminal trespassing call, and that person pulls a knife on the officer, he can use deadly force even though the severity of the crime is low. The immediacy of the threat is high. So that's factor number 2, right? Okay. And that makes sense, right? That should be, you have the ability to defend yourself. And the other 2 factors are going to be resisting, or they're actively resisting. Okay? Passive resistance is not enough, and I think that's sometimes where officers in other cities have gotten into trouble. You see a passively resistant suspect, somebody who just wants to kind of go limp, and they overuse their force in other cities, right? And then you have, are they actively fleeing to evade arrest? Those are your 4 factors that the courts are going to consider, right? Tennessee versus Garner gave us very clear rules on when we can shoot somebody who is a fleeing felon, right? In that case, way back in the day, this kid who was burglarizing a house was shot from behind when Tennessee had the fleeing felon law, and the courts ruled that was an unconstitutional law because his right to live outweighed our ability to catch that person. So, and now we have to believe you're a danger to the public if we were to allow you to escape, or that you already inflicted or threatened to inflict serious physical harm on somebody else, and it will use deadly force to stop fleeing suspects. All of those rules are kind of what I'm talking about in the Citizens Advisory Board. I'll take you back to when the officer was caught on video punching that woman in the face. Okay, looked like a terrible use of force, right? Looked excessive. Okay. Let's look at the facts by the courts, right? What was the severity of the crime for the person that got force used on? Assault an officer. Where would we put that on our severity level, right? It's not low. If you assault an officer, you're going to expect some type of physical response back, right? I think everybody would agree with that. And then what was the immediacy of the threat to harm to the officer? What a lot of people don't know is the person who was punched threw 2 or 3 punches at the officer first and connected, punched the officer in the face.
Yeah, but at the same time,
in the face, you can expect some use of force.
But at the same time, Lieutenant Owens, you got officers that will apply pressure. I know personally an example, a person trying to swallow drugs. And while that person trying to swallow drugs, you sticking your finger in his mouth and he choking. Then you file assault on the officer. Now you just beat him up and everything, and it's right there on YouTube. So these are cases. So it goes both ways.
It does. And to say that we're perfect all the time, we're not.
And that person I was talking about was me.
I don't know the specifics of that, but not to say that we're perfect all the time, because we're not. Remember, we're an aspect of the community, right? The community is not perfect all the time. We strive to be better in every aspect that we do. When we have an issue with somebody, we try to correct those issues anytime that we have. That's all we can commit to.
Would you think, and I know you might have to go back to your superiors or whatever, but would you think that the police department would be open to working with TOPS? Let me be clear. I'm not TOPS. I'm KSG Ministries, doing this radio and do what I do with my advocacy of 31 years. So TOPS would be the staff, my wife, all them. That's who run TOPS. I know. But anyway, would they be open to working with TOPS? Mr. Russell. You know who Mr. Russell is. That dude God did this. He does to stop the violence and all that, right? And I know y'all probably be willing to work with Nate Patterson on this youth advisory board, because they're the ones that's closest to the youth right now. A lot of them listen to me, but I done got older.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And I'll say that any organization that is for the betterment of the community, we would want to partner with. There's nobody here that would say, hey, we don't want to partner with you. We're not interested in. Everybody's got something to bring to the table in this issue, because it's a community-wide issue. If you're not touching as many people in the community,
you're a lot more receptive than I thought you would be, because for some reason your commissioners and your mayor don't seem to, maybe they don't understand the severity and the benefit of a citizen review board. So I think that what y'all need to do downtown, to be honest with you, if I give y'all any advice at all, y'all need to come together and have a meeting about it. So that way the police department can give the department heads and the command and commissioners the reasons and the benefit of it, instead of them thinking it's just something that, oh, we're gonna go against the police. No. That's not what the Citizen Review Board is, and I'm glad that you have a clear understanding about it. When we look at what's happening in Dothan, Alabama now, do you feel like Dothan is becoming more dangerous?
No, I can tell you just from my experience. Okay, I've been doing this for 18 years. My dad did it for 27 before that. Dothan is about the same as it was 18 years ago.
So is the heightened awareness from media and all, is that what making it so?
I think there's two reasons for the perception that
let's get it wrong.
First thing is visibility of the crime, right? Now anybody who is seeing a crime can whip out their phone, go Facebook Live,
Exactly.
and you've got it. Okay, it is right there for everyone. You get probably a better view than the police are going to get minutes after the crime happened, right? I just saw on the news a little while ago that there was a shooting up in Chicago where a kid was standing on the front porch with a Glock switch, which makes that gun fully automatic, in a shootout while people are diving down and really trying to hide from bullets. Okay, that makes the perception that it's very dangerous out there. Now, there are youth out there that are using guns and use them to the degree that they want to hurt somebody. It's not just to send a message anymore. They want to hurt it, and there's all kinds of societal reasons for that. So visibility, number one, you have more independent journalists now today than you did back in the day. Think about 2007, 2008.
You call them journalists? You're nice.
Some of them. Some of them.
You're real nice.
So when you talk about and let's talk about that, Kenny. Even the .U, okay, Miss Tammy, okay, love me some Miss Tammy, okay. Ricky Stokes, do they have to abide by journalistic ethics?
But those might be journalists. I'm talking about people that got their phones out and kids and all this that don't even know nothing about journalism. That's putting it out there and putting memes with them.
According to the First Amendment, does a journalist have any more access or right to the police than the citizen does?
No.
Then I call them citizen journalists.
No.
And that's what you've got now is citizen journalists, and your visibility is up here. Here's the second reason, Kenny, that a lot of people aren't seeing is that Chief Benny is probably one of the most transparent chiefs that we've ever had. We are letting people know about the crime instead of finding you out on the 5 or 6 o'clock news. 2007, 2008, you had to wait for the 5, 6, 10 o'clock news to find out about crime. That's if we told anybody. Now we are up front saying, yes, this happened. Here's what our plans are. Here's the future perspective for how we're going to fix it. So transparency and visibility.
I'm thinking. You might be right. I can't prove you wrong right now. I can't prove you wrong.
I can tell you because the press releases come from me. The social media updates come from me.
You send them to my phone.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be transparent because if the public doesn't know about crime, how can they help us solve it? We want to be transparent with our crime and what's happening.
Okay. Jimmy McCray, what you say here? The police department will not go for a citizen review board, especially if the person judging them isn't law enforcement. It will have to be something the mayor will have to implement. Well, that's why I'm saying that they need to talk to the mayor. Because if you got Lieutenant Owens here and Chief Benny that's saying, hey, we don't see no problem with it. You know, we might have this, have to do some negotiating and some tweaking and twerking on how we're going to set it up. Because you got 3 different kinds of citizen review board. You can set it up where they have subpoena power, work with the IA. You can set it up where it comes from the commissioners. You can set it up. I mean, there's 3 different ways. But any of them you set up is going to have police presence, at least 2 people from the police department. I think a spokesman and somebody from IA got to be there, or either got to be an officer. So that's one of the things that needs to be hashed out. So they agree with me. Y'all need to really talk to the man so they can see what that's about. Now, let's get back to this media presence. So one of the things that I noticed, I see what you're saying about, Chief Benny letting everybody know what the crime is. We don't have to wait till 5 o'clock and all that. I understand that. I see that. But one of the things that I do not understand, or may not agree with, is the fact that the police department itself needs to come and talk to the community. What you're doing now is what we need to see more of. And let us see that transparency. Because one of the things you'll have is me. I'm not talking about nobody else right now. I'm talking about me. That'll sit up there and hear Kevin Darcy or the mayor or somebody brag about the training center out there. Now, I, for one, study stuff like that, so I know the training center is training not only police officers, but dogs. Right? Yes. And that training center is training people from Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. Now, here's the biggest thing I'm going to holler as an advocate. Who that training center training on? My kids out here. My people out here. Even the helicopter, a lot of people don't know who was flying the helicopter. You understand what I'm saying? So these are the things that I want to know. How do we, curtail, or how do we address the fact that we got a training center here? And how could you assure us, as Lieutenant Owens, as long as you've been down there, that these training centers are not training on our children?
So what do you mean training on the children?
Well, meaning that when they go do their field operations, this and that and other, they're doing it right here in the city of Dothan.
So anytime that we deploy our resources in the community, it's for an actual crime that's occurring. That's the only way we're going to put our resources out there. When we talk about training missions, and the WASP program is one of those things that you mentioned, the helicopter that goes up, they do have to get a certain amount of flying hours, but what they're not doing is they're not flying at 500 feet or 1,000 feet above a crowd just for the sake of flying above the crowd, right? I think a lot of people saw that on some type of social media where they flew over right behind 616 North Oaks over here, right. And it was because of a very large presence who was trespassing on city property. A lot of people don't know that city property right behind the Hobo.
I seen the sign yesterday. Y'all got a sign out there now. No trespass.
What they also don't know is that in 2020, 2021, we had a murder right there at Cortez Hill. He was shot and killed because of one of those field parties that was not authorized. Those things happen when you have large groups like that. So how do you get rid of it real quick? You disperse them real quick, and you notice we didn't have any violence happening there. So that's part of our, hey, we see a problem, we got to fix it. Sometimes it's a very acute problem. Sometimes it's, hey, this group right here, it can get out of hand really quickly because of the behaviors that we're seeing, and we have to fly and do those things. But for the most part, when they're training out there at the training center, it's training missions. They're flying thousands of feet above Dothan, working on the equipment, focusing in, worrying about how to work the infrared or whatever it is. When you talk about
the short answer is they're not training in our streets on our children.
Correct. Now they may be flying above Dothan, but that doesn't mean they're focusing in on West Newton Street to kind of see what's going on down there. That's not their purpose.
So on our streets is law enforcement officers that have went through DPD in Aaliyah and all that on our streets.
Yes.
And Dothan, Alabama.
Yes.
Okay, that's something I want to have clear myself, because that's one of the things that I keep bringing up every time they mention that training center. I'm like, yeah, don't brag to me about the training center, and you got all the police out there that's training on my. You
now,
know what I mean?
There is a lot of really good public and community aspects to that training center. They do a lot of really good things that are community based, not just law enforcement. Such as the rape aggressive defense or RAD. Okay, and this is the woman's self-defense course. It teaches women, if they're ever attacked, how to get out from a chokehold, how to get away from an aggressor. We have Citizens Firearms Academies, where if you have a firearm and you want to use it in defense of yourself or have it in your home, we bring firearms instructors out there to show you proper sight alignment, trigger pull, trigger discipline, how to work your gun, how to break it down, how to clean everything, every aspect of that firearm. Right now, there's a junior police academy going on at the training center right now. That junior police academy is focusing on the youth from 11 to 15 years old, I think, showing them different aspects of law enforcement.
Will they be ride-alongs with that?
They won't do ride-alongs because they're too young. And there's the issue of
will y'all start back ride-alongs like y'all used to have?
We do those on a limited basis. We already, you can send a request up to the chief, and he either approves or denies it, and I'm pretty sure he sends it down to the captain, and that's kind of how it goes. We'll put you in the car and let you do ride-alongs.
One of the things that we used to have back when I was growing up, we had ride-alongs. Keith Gray was one of the main ones who used to ride along. And now everybody's like got this whole big stigma about being a snitch and this and that and the other. So people don't want to ride along. Feel like they'll put themselves in danger if they do. But the only way we're going to know what's going on with you all in the police department is for us to go down there and see. I want to go to that training center. I wouldn't mind going and taking a bunch of preachers with me and advocates and people that want to be advocates, community leaders, I should say. And let us see what's going on at the training center. Let y'all walk us through it. So that way we'll get to see for ourselves what you're doing. Now, you just named two things. You named that they teach women defense class.
Yeah, it's a women's self-defense class called R.A.W. It's on our Facebook page if anybody wants to.
What's your Facebook page?
So Facebook is Dothan Police.
Dothan Police.
Dothan Police
And
Department.
it's on the Facebook page. Go ahead.
Say something here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My brother's a retired police officer, and I myself participated in the COPS program. My question is that, do you have the type of chief?
She got the mic in her hand.
Do you have the type of chief that when things are stable and crime is down, says, good job, the community's stable, your presence is really making a difference? Or do you have the type of chief that says, things are too quiet, go haul somebody?
Chief Benny is one of those servant leaders where he is full praise when it's needed, and full accountability when it's needed as well. That's a lot of things that people don't understand about
Yeah,
Chief Benny.
he showed his full accountability. He locked me up.
Chief Benny believes three things of his office. This is what he wants you. Okay? Be professional.
Okay.
Be courteous. And be right. And what he means by be right is be right within the bounds of the law. Chief Benny does not put up with officers who violate constitutional rights. We have seen quite a few of them that have been held accountable, that have violated those. Again, we're not perfect. That stuff happens, right? But when it happens, it is addressed immediately. So he's one of those that, hey, you're doing a good job. Let's make sure we maintain the standard. Don't slack up for just a second because that's how crime gets away from you. Or, hey, don't relax on your training because that's how training gets away from you. He's one of those where, hey, yeah, you are doing a good job, but we don't need to relax. But that doesn't mean go harder, if that makes sense to you.
Right. Another thing, too, on a slow day, what I would like, and I don't know if you guys do this, is for patrol to go pass by the sexual predator, child molester's houses on a slow day, and also to walk cadaver dogs through abandoned houses, little upkeep, things like that.
Wait, what did you say? What? Cadaver?
Dogs.
Okay. So I'll address the sexual predator. We actually have a program that's far and beyond what the state of Alabama requires as far as sex offenders that live in the city limits of Dothan, that whether they work, live, or are going to school in our city limits. We actually have a sex offender coordinator who coordinates and makes sure that every sex offender is where they say they're going to be. But more than that, Dothan Police Department, Chief Benny reinstituted this after a hiatus after COVID because we stopped this after a little while. We want to get too close to people. But we have what's called the SOAP program. It's the Sex Offender Accountability Program. Once a month, an officer is assigned to a certain sex offender and goes to his house to make sure, A, he's living there, and B, that nothing else is going on. And as far as the cadaver dogs, I hope we don't find any dead bodies in these vacant houses. That's what cadaver dogs. So are you saying drug dogs or you mean cadaver dogs?
Cadaver dogs.
Okay.
Looking for dead bodies in all these abandoned lots and houses and things like that.
I don't know that we'll need a cadaver dog. And again, my basis is in criminal investigations. I've worked a lot of murders, even commanded the CID for a little while. If there was a dead body in one of those houses, I think we would know because of the smell. And we would have to request those cadaver dogs. Cadaver dogs are not something that we have in the city of Dothan. We would have to request.
Hold on, y'all. We got a caller. Go ahead, caller. You live on there. Hello? Okay, caller, do us a favor and call back. Do us a favor, call in and call back. How are you doing with what?
Rape kits.
Rape kits. Okay.
So rape kits and rapes in general, just getting the examination, it became a problem right around the 2020, 2021. And the problem wasn't with the police department, it was with the hospitals and their ability to keep and retain SART-SANE nurses. We had a real shortage of people who were trained in that sexual assault thing. We've got all the kits that we could ever want. It's sometimes finding the people that can do those examinations, but the CID, specifically the Special Investigations Unit, worked hard with Southeast Health and Flowers Hospital to make sure that we had that SART-SANE program intact, and they are doing it now even further than what they did back in the day, where they can actually do juveniles to a certain extent and examine them as far as sexual assaults. So we've made a lot of really good leaps and bounds when it comes to rape kits and things like that.
Lieutenant Owens from the Dothan Police Department. The views, opinions, and words that are spoken for the past hour are the views, opinions, and words of me, myself, Dr. Kenneth Glasgow, my guests in the lab, as well as those that call in. They are not the views, opinions, and words of WKCG 99.1 FM or the Ordinary People Society. And I'll go ahead and take this call. Go ahead, caller. You are live on the air. Talk to me.
Hi, Kenny. This is Bruce Hayes Nelson. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. I have a question for. Thank you to the assistant chief for coming in. I really appreciate this because we do value transparency. I have a couple of questions because I have encountered the police in many good aspects, but also in some that I have questions about. Number one, how do you recruit your officers as far as their background before they come to Dothan to ensure that they don't have outstanding problems and concerns that are going to be deployed into our community? Two people come to mind, Michael Woodside and Derek Moody. Both of them had backgrounds when they were recruited. Then I have another question.
Hold on with your second question, Ms. Ruth. Let him give him time to answer. Lieutenant Bentley, he's doing pretty good up there.
Okay.
So we do take a lot of pains to make sure that we're seeing those issues beforehand. You know, they have to go through a polygraph examination that's given by one of our polygraph examiners. We send them for psychological examinations. There's physicals, there's interviews. So we really go through a lot of layers before we get to the part of, okay, we're going to hire this person. What I can say is that the decision to hire or not hire does not only rest with the chief of police. And the chief of police can make a selection based off how many people you have. Let's say you have 5 applicants. We're going to get 3 names for 1 slot. Okay? If we have 5 slots and there's nothing to disqualify this person, especially if we didn't know it at the time, there is nothing that we can do except hire this person. And that does lead to some hires that you think either they're not going to make it for one reason or another. As to the specific officers, one of those doesn't even work with us anymore. And the
Which
other
one is that?
That would be Woodside. He left many years ago.
Okay.
I don't know specifically about what the issues are with Sergeant Moody, but either way, Sergeant Moody would still be here if you weren't adhering to what the standards of the department was. Now, does that mean that he's never gotten in trouble? I don't know if I'd go that far. Is it something I can comment? No, not on personnel matters. We just don't put those things out.
And we can't do it on the air either.
Right. So that's kind of what that's what we have a lot of different layers. They also go through a lot more training. 10 weeks pre-academy, 14 weeks post-academy, another 12 weeks after the academy, and all of that. We sometimes people get through because they meet the minimum standards. And again, when they go to the academy, that's minimum standards, and we try to raise those standards after the academy. But we can only do so much until they make it to the academy, and then they go to different police departments.
Okay, so I see what you said. So you're saying that even though they could pass their minimum, because one of the biggest things that I've advocated for in Alabama, I had an audit done in 2012 and in 2016 in Georgia. Y'all can look it up on Google. And it was because of East Dublin Police Department. And in Georgia, you have to have 2 hours classroom training as well as the other trainings you have. And those 2 hours classroom training is cultural and diversity training. So you can't just sit out there and shoot at the black target all day and psychologically go through target practice without going through diversity and cultural training to divert some of that. And I think you understand what we're talking about. We won't go in detail.
And we actually do the same thing. Every officer, as opposed to APO standards, has been through what's called implicit bias training. We go through.
Is that mandatory though?
It is absolutely mandatory. Even before, like I went to the academy, they made me take that training after I was out of the academy. Now it is part of the 560-hour curriculum for the academy. But not only that, they're now getting 16 hours worth of de-escalation and conflict resolution that we weren't getting back when I went to the academy. We're really trying to do those things to make sure our officers are trained for the community. But every year we have to go through 12 hours of continuing education. That's APO standard, but we're also CLIA accredited, a Commission on Accredited Law Enforcement Agencies, right? We have 4 of the major law enforcement research groups: the Police Executive Research Forum, NOBLE, the National Organization of Retired Black Law Enforcement Executives. We have IACP. We've got NSA, the National Sheriff's Association.
You said NOBLE is here?
No, NOBLE is a part of CLIA.
Oh, okay.
So they take
because
that
NOBLE.
group.
Well, I can go ahead and let y'all know it was going to be a surprise, but I'll go ahead and tell you NOBLE is coming here.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out how or who is going to be the best representative of it. I talked to Chief Melvin myself the other day. Me and him are pretty close, unbeknownst to a lot of people. But anyway, so NOBLE is going to be coming because we see a flux of black officers now. So NOBLE will be coming. I'm going to be very honest with you, Lieutenant Owens. You're really impressive. You're good. You're real good. And Chief, if you're listening, man, you sent a good one. You sent a good one now. I can't drop him. But I'm going to get deep with him in a minute. But he's good.
To finish that thought was these organizations come up with best practices for the law enforcement standard. We're CLIA accredited, meaning that we don't just stop at 12 hours. We have to get mandatory legal updates every year. We have to get mandatory mental health training.
Tell us about these legal updates.
So these legal updates are either updates in the law or updates in recent court cases, such as when they change from being able to use a taser on a passively resistant suspect. Now you cannot do that.
When did all this happen? This must happen since 21.
It's been happening for years.
I know y'all been CLIA accredited, but I'm talking about what's not happening.
That's because Chief Benny is the most transparent chief that you guys have ever had. We did these things, but nobody would tell anybody about it. Well, I'm here now and I'm telling you about it. This is what the police department is doing, and this is why we're proud.
We need our citizen review board
and our community.
Hold on. You still got to call. Caller, you still on there? With your second question.
My second question. Corruption inside of the police department that the citizens experience. Not all the police, I want to tell you that I've not had any bad personal encounters, but I've had situations where things did not get investigated, but many complaints from the citizens, and FBI saying that these don't rise to the level of an investigation, but you're seeing court cases come out of these over and over, and the same people creating problems. There's no way to actually stop the cycle.
I got you. I understand what she's saying. So you hear what she's saying. She's saying when we take cases of corruption all the way up to the FBI and all that, what can we fall back to? Like in court, you can fall back to the local court, if the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court, and all that. What can the local police department do when we find corruption and all that to address it? If we get a citizen review board, some of that would be curtailed before we even have to go anywhere else. One of the biggest things that people not understanding about my push for this citizen review board is that we'll be able to handle a lot of things locally. We wouldn't even have to take them nowhere else because locally, the police department, along with the community and the citizen review board, will address some corruption. And that's what people have to understand. That's the severity. And I did say severity of having a citizen review board. He's in total agreement with that. But to answer her question, sir,
I would say that we do in the police department what we would ask out of the community is if you know that there are bad actors, report them. You said it earlier, the term snitching. I hate that term, and I like the way that the Dothan City Schools kind of turning that phrase of I'm not snitching, I'm reporting. If we report more, those bad actors, both in our community and in our police department, will disappear. And we have done that. Before Chief Benny's tenure, I know of people who had issues, okay, and I'll just put it like that, issues, and they're not with our department anymore, and they didn't need to be, okay? There were certain people, I think we've got a pretty good group right now, actually, because I've worked with a lot of them. I think we got a good core group. We have one or two problems.
I questioned a couple of them.
So, and that's fine. But for the most part, the core, the orchard is pure. You might have a couple rotten ones on the ground. We'll kick those over at some point in time when they give us enough. Unfortunately, with personnel, you have to go through certain things to get rid of somebody. It's not as easy as, hey, Kenny, I don't like you anymore, you're fired.
Yeah.
It does not work that way. People deserve due process, just like people we arrest deserve due process. You deserve due process anytime, and I think that's kind of what the complaint was. There was no due process.
Well, one of the biggest things that I'm trying to encourage citizens to do is you got to file complaints. You can't even address an officer unless you file a complaint. And we'll sit up here and call me, and I'll get up here and they rag or go down there and talk mess and all that, and then the chief will be like, "Well, Glasgow, there's no complaint. There's nothing filed. I don't even know what you're talking about. Nobody said anything to me." So then I'm sitting up there looking like a fool fighting a fictitious corruption case that never happened because you never wrote it on paper. So if you have a problem, you have to write it up. The police officers are people that work for us just like elected officials. Now, one of the things that, let's get it straight, because a lot of people don't know this, the police chief is not voted in. You can't vote for him. He's appointed by the mayor and the personnel department. Okay? So we can't vote him in or out. He is appointed. How we make changes or whatever is about upcoming election by voting the mayor and the commissioners on there who will address these problems. And if we have elected officials that are disagreeing with the department, then that's something we might need to be looking at. We need to pay close attention to this when you have a police department and say, hey, we want citizens involved. We want the citizen review board. Our chief, Benny, who I'm learning a whole lot of different stuff about because I had my own opinion. I got locked up for murder. I got my own opinion. But anyway, and I'm learning that, okay, he wants to be transparent. So let's hold him to that. Let's be transparent with him. And being so, meaning we got to get down there with him and have a citizen review board. And that's what they want. They saying, hey, we ain't got nothing to hide. I'm telling you, when I asked him before we got on the air, I said, anything you want me to stay away from? He said, no, we fully transparent. Whatever you want to ask, Glasgow. So this is where we at. Callers, y'all have so much to say. I got 14 different comments here. I need you to call in. I cannot read all these comments. I'm getting older. All right? So call in 334-446-3812. 334-446-3812. That's the number to get inside the lab and to talk to Lieutenant Owens while he's here. And one thing I see by him, he being very transparent, wide open, and he's very good at these answers. I'm gonna get him on one of them.
Somebody promoted me to assistant chief now.
Well, we're gonna get you. Miss Rupert promoted you to assistant chief, and Chief Benny, if you hear us, he might need to be. You picked a good spokesman, but you might need to make him your assistant chief.
There's already one. It's Major Glover, and he's doing just fine in that position.
Major Glover's still there.
Oh yeah.
He ain't retired yet.
No, sir.
Oh my God. And we getting old, Major. But anyway. So the next thing I want to ask you, they're asking about the women's classes in the defense class. Are they free?
Yes, they are 100% free. They happen on 2 Saturdays. You learn certain aspects of the different moves, and then we put on gear as law enforcement, and you beat the crap out of us basically to get away. But it's a good training class. I think they take somewhere between 24 and 25 women at any point in time. They've gone higher than that because we've got a bunch of different instructors. But I would invite everybody in the community to get the women in the community, because no training is bad training. You cannot get enough training.
I think that is biased because y'all teaching our women how to beat us men up and not giving us no self-defense classes
should bring it
against
into
them.
the high schools.
Yeah, we need some men classes. Oh, yeah. One of the things I want to say to you, cuz, I want to ask you a question. Now you hear what he's saying about the Citizens Review Board and all that, and they're being very transparent, right? How do you feel about that?
I think it's excellent. Cuomo instituted the Citizen Review Board up in New York, and crime went down. So there's real results from that. The other thing I wanted to say too, if you're an officer and maybe chiefs need to kind of mention it to the cadets or whatever, you can expect to be hit because most people are resisting arrest. They don't want to go. People that comply with the law are resisting arrest. That's why they're complying with the law.
No. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
And you gotta think about it.
Let me state this. I ain't even gonna let Lieutenant Owens answer that. Hold on, cuz I'm gonna answer that myself.
Well, don't do it. No.
Let me tell you this.
But you can kind of expect
children, adults, and everybody
behavior.
Abide by whatever they say. That's all you gotta do. Fight out in court. When they was looking for my son, what did I tell them? I said, look, we don't run. We Glasgow. We fight ours in court. We don't run. What are you doing? And my son said, you know what, Daddy? I'm turning myself in. And he did. And guess what? There was no problems. But the media, let me finish. But the media had him scaled like he had murdered 55 people because he was just my son. Now, if it wasn't my son, it probably wouldn't have happened that way. Right. And that's when I made up my mind I got to get back on the radio. Because he just said it himself, he admits it, because the media gives us fictitious. The man just sat up here and told me something that I want to argue with him about so bad, but I ain't got enough time to Google and look it up. Anyway, when he sat up there and said that the crime has went down 23%, and the reason we think, he got it right here.
I brought the chart for you. I brought the chart for you because I knew it would come up. Because who trusts me on the numbers, right? I get it. That's why we bring it to you. What happened in 2020, and these are all your part one crimes.
Shut up, Ashley. Ashley over here talking about he got you.
Okay? That's why I stuck that under my leg, because it is the actual numbers. Now, a lot of people may think, well, that's only what's reported. How can we deal with crime that's not reported?
But the media has it pegged like we just black folks, our black kids are killing each other every other day.
And it's not. That's not the way it happens. I'll tell you, the murder rate that we had last year was 5, and I can remember in 2019 or 2020, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 15. Back when my dad was investigating murders in the mid-90s, they were having 12 to 18 per year. Okay? So what you see out there, especially with the media overload, there's a saying in media, if it bleeds, it leads. Okay? And when you understand what the media is looking for, you understand why they conflate the crime issue.
Of course.
So here's my question. What do the police, and this is the craziest question in the world coming from Kenneth Glasgow, y'all. I'm finna do it. I have really, really grown. What resources or support do officers need from the citizens in order to fight crime and make it more effective in fighting crime? What support do the police department need? Because that's a question that never has come up.
Well, I can say that the support that we're getting already looks to be enough. When you look at a 21% decrease in crime over the last 5 years and a 12% year over year, we're getting the support we need out of the community. It is legitimately, and I've hashtagged this a couple times on my Facebook, the best community ever. We love our community. Now, what can individual communities do? If problems pop up, we need to know about it. Okay, don't try to handle them yourself. Don't just think it's going to go away. If you let us know about it, we will come and focus on that problem. If there's people dealing drugs in your neighborhood, we want to know about it so that we can set up operations and go after and get them out of your community. Because they don't want them in their community. All it does is devalue property values.
But they might be scared of them.
That's exactly right.
You got grandma up here and her grandson might be selling drugs, and she's scared to say something because he just bought her a 75-inch.
Which is how we get the anonymous tips.
I'm just saying.
Central Alabama Crime Stoppers, 215-STOP, or p3tips.com. You can set that
well, you can say that. I'm not. What I'm going to say is this. Since you mentioned drugs, what about us in rehabilitation? Does the police department have a mindset of not just lock them up, throw away the key, but getting them some rehab? Y'all are the first responders, right? And one of the things the other thing that I want to ask you before you leave, we got about 10 more minutes. And the other thing I want to ask you is about people that the mental health is real. Yeah, right. And a lot of people are dealing with mental health issues. They turn around and close. Me and Governor Ivey having it out about in West Alabama. Having it out, well, that's a different subject. But anyway, they closed down 2 of our major mental health facilities in Alabama. The police department, I'm trying not to cry, is the main ones have to deal with our children. Yes. And a lot of them suffer from trauma, from mental health and all. And then you have police that have this lock them up, throw away the key, and some of them just need help.
So I'll tell you on the first aspect of drugs. Do you want to take that call first? And then I'll get back.
Go ahead, then stop.
Okay. So the first aspect on drugs is that we are not and this is going to sound bad, Kenny, but we're not the rehabilitation component of the criminal justice system. We are only the enforcement part. We can only enforce the laws that we're given, right? We do give them resources, especially with this new camping ordinance that I'm sure everybody's heard about. You haven't heard of hardly any arrests since we kind of adjusted the first part of it, is because we're giving everybody resources on how to combat the unhoused, right? We do the same thing with people who have drug addictions, but we can't force them to do it, right?
Stop it.
The courts can.
Go ahead, Carly. You live on the air. Talk to me.
I was concerned about what better steps can they take that when the police officers themselves are involved in crimes and criminal activity, why are they transferred to another agency? Like, for instance, if they have committed a crime while they're working with the city of Dothan Police Department, then they're given an option to retire or to be recommended for their crime, or they could shift right on over to like the county and start working for the county. Now, if this is going on and this is happening with you, how can we as the people trust the system?
Good question, caller.
Very, very fair. And so before, I think it was 2022 when a different law went into effect, that now we have the decertified, or we can put people on a list that have abused their position in law enforcement. And I can tell you this, that other agencies may let them resign, and a lot of times what they do is they pop their resignation, get out of there before they get fired, and then you wouldn't have that termination on your record. Chief Benny doesn't play that. Chief Benny can say, no, I don't accept your resignation, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start termination proceedings, and that's what he's done. Anybody who is involved, and we had an officer recently who, he wasn't involved in the drugs, but he kind of followed somebody while he knew that they were going to buy drugs. And what we did was we sent that to the A-Post investigators so they can pull his certification. So we're getting real serious on getting these people out of law enforcement profession entirely. But you're right, all too often, especially back years ago, they would let people resign or retire, and then they would move on to a different agency. And that's one thing that we see is now we're having problems with this agency B over here. Well, that's a bunch of officers that we fired from the Dothan Police Department. We would rather get them out. So we're starting to kind of turn that ship as well. Again, it's not one that we turn immediately, but we've been given the tools here to put them on lists where people won't hire them. There's new law that now, before, we didn't disclose personnel issues, right?
Right.
We do other law enforcement agencies now. We give you their full personnel jacket if you request it, to including every disciplinary they've ever been written.
See, that's why we got to have the Citizens Review Board. I'm going to say it to the day I die. Homelessness. That law that came out. I know y'all don't do the ordinances. I know y'all don't, but y'all enforce it. Yep. People that are homeless, just like I'm talking to you about people that's on drugs, just like I'm talking to you about people that got mental health. And I understand the police department, not a rehab center, y'all not counselors.
All we can do is put them in the system and hope the courts won't order that, and all too often the courts either
But
don't.
what about going to court to speak toward that? Because a lot of officers, back in my day, you had officers. Let me tell y'all a story. Valencia was gonna shoot me. We talking about Sheriff Valencia was gonna shoot me. If you right now, shoot because I kept gritting my teeth in my teeth, but he didn't know I had braces where my jaw had been broke, so I couldn't open my mouth. So while I was grilling at him like this, he thinking I'm trying to bite him when I'm trying to keep from them the braces and the way they have my teeth the wires from cutting my lips. And when he found out, he went and him and Wolfman, I don't know if you ever remember Wolfman, and they went and it was like he a drug addict, man. He need help. You know what I mean? Officers don't do that no more.
But not that you see. Again, perception is reality, but the perception is you're not there for every court case. In fact, there were several times we went into pretrial diversion. That's only agreed to if the officer agrees to it. That's the only way you get into pretrial diversion. So when that happens, one of the things we go to the judge, we tell him, hey, what he needs is really this from talking to his family. We do pretrial diversion if he'll do this. And all too often they'll go rehab, they'll leave rehab and then go right back to drugs, and then we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah. Go ahead, Carly. You live on air. Talk to me.
Yeah, I want to ask the officer, can an officer or the chief or a sheriff sign a warrant? Does the warrant have to be signed by a judge?
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you, Carly.
Yeah, so most warrants are a probable cause finding by a magistrate. And depending on if you're in district court, circuit court, municipal court, we go to magistrates. The only one that's really signed by a judge are fugitive from justice warrants. And that's like if you have a warrant from Georgia and we got to extradite you out of state, they have to sign those because you get no bond. So, but no, most of those are going to go to magistrates for a finding of probable cause. Now, a judge gets involved later on with a preliminary hearing or a probable cause hearing after 48 hours after you've been arrested, you haven't gone out of jail and all that stuff. So a judge still gets involved with the initial finding of the magistrate.
All right. Go ahead, Carly. Live on air. Talk to me. We finna go.
Can the officer sign the warrant? That's what I'm asking. Can the police chief or can the sheriff actually sign a warrant? Or does it have to be signed by a judge?
All right. Thank you, Carly.
Yeah, so we provide the probable cause in an affidavit, but the person who finds probable cause has to be a magistrate or judge. Chief Benny can't say, I want you to go out and arrest Kenny Glasgow. That's not the way that works. We have to have a probable cause finding by a judge or a magistrate, a neutral or detached third party, according to the Constitution.
All right, Lieutenant. Our time is up. Do you have 5 more minutes, or you ready?
Yeah,
You got to go.
Let's
Okay, callers, come on now. He want to keep going. He ready. He look. If you got,
Well, I want to ask a question.
Well, come on with it.
In police training now, do you practice with each other the scenario of resisting each other? Get your minds wrapped around that, because you're going to get hit or swinged or punched or nudged, or the person's going to faint or get off balance or whatever, because that's just natural human reaction. So do you practice resisting each other?
Absolutely. So the fact of the matter is that over 800,000 law enforcement officers in the United States, less than 1% of all encounters by those 800,000 law enforcement officers lead to a use of force. Less than 1%.
Wow.
But we do have around 100 hours dedicated to either use of force, how to use of force, or the legal theory behind use of force. So we do that a lot where we practice on people handcuffing, taking them down. I think they box at some point in the academy.
It's just so the officer won't overreact. He'll just go, this is like a 2-year-old.
But I'll tell you this, fighting against your peer is different than fighting against somebody you don't know.
That's right.
You're not going to get the same agreement.
That's right. Go ahead, Carly. You live on air. Talk to me.
In situations like where there's clear violations and people have been arrested and served time and because of officer misconduct, is there any way that those people's cases can be addressed because they have now served time? I'm going after one officer comes to mind, Magrino, where there was evidence that guns had been used 2 or 3 times in crimes, and the people already served time. We went to the FBI. The FBI said, hey, there's no problem here. There's a cyclical problem inside of it. It goes in police, it goes in city commission, the FBI, I got into Kenny Glassgow's case because we've taken all this up to the U.S. attorney with no resolve. So I'm concerned that the police know there was wrongdoing. John Powell comes to mind. When they've already served time, there's corrupt policing involved, but these people have no resolve. What is your point as a human point on that? Because I know God knows the legal system and it's broken.
Okay. So I'll address the Magrino and the John Powell, that those were all mid-2000s. You know, when I got hired in 2007, Chief Benny was a corporal. So all those people are out of law enforcement. To say that there's a cyclical problem of corruption in those police departments is patently false, because we hold each other accountable to the best degree that we can. Now, are there things happening that we don't know about? Sure. I'm sure there's something out there that we just don't know about yet. But when we find out about an issue, we hold our officers accountable to the highest standard available by law, and we will prosecute those officers who do wrongdoing. And I point to Lannis Bonds and Adrian Fulmer as two examples of how we do that. We were going to prosecute other officers, and again, the decision to prosecute a case does not lie with the police department. The decision to review prosecutions doesn't lie with the police department. All of that is the Attorney General and the District Attorney's Office, whether they will review it or not. We simply enforce the law, but to get the sentence, to prosecute it, to bring the evidence, all of that comes afterwards, we are a small part of that.
So when did Chief Benny take over as chief?
That would have been 2000 and I don't want to get it wrong.
Was it 22 or 23?
I want to say it was 18 or 19.
18 or 19?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it. I'll look that up. Because he was the chief during COVID.
He was major when he gave them the charge. He was major. That was 18. Got to be 19.
Yeah.
Okay. I got another caller. Okay. Callers, I need you to call in. I need you to call in because he's giving us a whole bunch of time. He said he'll stay here to 9:30. You got 10 more minutes. All of your questions, call in. All that after meeting math and all that calling me, call now while he's here. Go ahead, call. He's live on air.
Hey, I want to get through those. This is Bishop Carroll. I want to get through those to the law enforcement there. He's doing a great job and questions. But one last thing I want to ask him about is basically when it comes to community, comes to everyone, how do you feel that the people in Dothan have to trust the police department? And I want to focus mainly on overall, but in the African American community, how do you feel the trust of the police department? Once again, thank you guys for doing a great job, but I want to hear your response to it.
Yeah, that's a good question too, Bishop. Because one of the reasons I'll help add to his question, because one of the biggest things that we feel, and I say we, including myself, in the Black community, is that we get over police. We really feel like that. We feel like when y'all do y'all pre-op and y'all post-op, y'all pre-op is always go over there. That's where the crime's at. Go over there, and it stays in the Black neighborhood, but y'all don't do all that policing over there in the white neighborhood. So
again, I'll point it back to perception. Do you know how much policing we're doing in the white neighborhoods? How much we are patrolling? How are we actively pulling over? I think it's more visible in the African American community because of history. You got to think about it now.
That's why I asked you. You notice that's why I asked you when Chief Benny came on, because a lot of the stuff that we're asking you about and that Ms. Ruth and all of us are bringing up is prior to. The only thing that, and you know, I've been gone for a year and a half, but from what I get from the community, this stuff was just still happening.
Well, you're always, we've got over 200 officers on the streets. When John Powell was here, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 150, 160. We've grown, 33% over the last 5 to 10 years. So, of course, some of that's still going to happen. You get officers who may over-police their jurisdictions. But when we have those, we ask ourselves, are they within the bounds of the law? And are they really completing the mission of being community-oriented? And when that happens and when they fall short, they are held accountable.
Yeah, because they're human. They got vendettas against folks, too. Absolutely. Go ahead, Caller. You live on the app.
Yeah, first of all, I would commend Lieutenant Owens on, quite eloquent. It breaks it down. And to bring about some points of interest that even I wasn't aware of. But I'm quite discouraged about some of the comments about media, in that I've been a news director for several radio stations up here years. When I first got into it, it was with yellow journalism. There was no Rupert Murdoch on the right and Ted Fett on the left. We simply told it like it was. But how we see media being an influence today on what's happening in the streets. I'll hang up and listen to you answer and join your show, Dr. Glasgow.
Good question. God bless.
Yeah, so the media definitely sees the value of clicks and likes, shares, and reactions, specifically for their digital media. What they're getting on air is a small portion of what they're getting. They're getting most of their hits on digital media, and they know that blood, gore, crime, and that's going to get the clicks.
Well, one of the things that we doing here that I know really shocked everybody is that they thought I was going to get on here and do the same thing, but no. We're educating people. What WKCG stands for, we keep the community growing. We can't keep the community growing on clicks and likes and all that. We keep the community growing by educating each other, having these one-on-one conversations, talking about the hard questions. Go ahead, call me live on air. Talk to me.
Yeah, we're still having the exact same problems. I had to contest that regarding it. I can name officers, even in your case, Kitty, whether that officer found who was somewhat the informant and the officer, those types of things are still going on. I have cases where a current police officer had his wife arrested and believed to sign the warrant after she was arrested, and this I'm talking about evasion. So we have these problems. We're not able to get any results from the U.S. Attorney, the FBI, and it's a waste of time, literally. Mark Saliba will not let this be said or let the people speak down at the city commission. He told me he would give me a report from the FBI. The FBI was supposed to debrief with me on the community, and the community, they never called me, they dodged me, and all we got was a report in the newspaper that they found there was no systemic corruption.
Right. Hold on one second. Are you talking about the police department or the city? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Ellison, if he wherever he is, and I'm talking about the Linda issued a warrant after she was arrested. How about that?
Right. Is that the city or is that the sheriff's department?
Matt Ellison, I think, is right here with him.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right.
I missed most of the question. It was railing against stuff that's already happened, already been looked at. I could tell you that nobody that I know of that is on the police department, that was on the police department back then, was planting any drugs. I think is what she was referring to. The FBI looked into it. We had the FBI come sit with us for 3 months during this investigation. Again, prior to Chief Benny getting there. And again, there's enough drugs and crime out there that I really don't have to plant anything on anybody. Now, did something happen to this young one? Maybe. And if it did, we hate that it happened. But it's not going on right now in the Dothan.
So let me say this. So you know, I'm sitting up here listening to you. I'm really impressed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very impressed. Wait. Go ahead, Carl. You live on there.
Okay, drug planning. We're talking drug planning, corruption, and calling in favor.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Ruth. Hold on one second. Ms. Ruth is talking about corruption. Listen, I understand exactly where she's coming from. And I have fought this 31 years. But I'm listening to you. And listening to you, I must admit that what you're saying to us is that what has happened is not continuing under Chief Benny's tenure in your tenure.
If it even happened before. There's
proof it happened before now.
Was there some corruption? Maybe. Any government agency is going to have their share of corruption, but I'm telling you, and I can say, after John Powell, you didn't have that, okay? Because I was deep into the know or with higher ups, okay? Now, did it happen before that? I can't tell you. I only came in 2007. What happened in 2003, 2004, 2005? Don't know. Can't tell you. My dad was in internal affairs for about 13 years, and I think he would know. He hasn't said anything, or at least the ones that were involved in anything like that got taken care of. Was it happening during the 50s and between 1950 and 1970 when my grandfather was on the streets and died in the line of duty? It's possible.
Right.
But my grandfather didn't mention it to my dad at the time. So again, we can only go by what we're told if we didn't know about it.
So how do we address it now? So our thing is now, right? Our thing is we got a new set of folks. We got a whole new generation coming on. We are in unified Dothan. Y'all know me. I'm going to end. We're about to get off that. I'm sorry. We're going to end on a positive note and unified Dothan. And in unified Dothan, because I heard every candidate say that yesterday. That lets me know two things. One is they listening. Two is they hear us. So in doing so, I will not allow the opportunity of us getting the citizen review board and agreeing with you to pass me by. And today we're gonna come to some agreement. And our agreement is what you're telling me is that that's not happening now. What you're telling me is that we can address it now. What you're telling me is that you agree with the citizen review board and have no problem with it. What you're telling me is that the old police department and the old corruption that we had, even years since Benny been there, because he had to get some stuff in order when he got there. So we're going to give him 2 or 3 years, right? So we'll go from 23. What you're telling me now, Lieutenant Owens, is that we have a police department that is community oriented.
Yes, by and large. Do you have some that are out there over policing that don't care about? Yeah, you're going to have those. We try to root them out as quickly as we can. For the large majority, our police department is focused on community partnerships, right? We want to partner with the community. We can't do it by ourselves. It is physically impossible for us to commit or to commit to reducing crime, to catch the people who we need to catch without the community's help. 85 to 90% of crimes would not get solved without the community.
Y'all heard it for yourself now. Now, I don't know what y'all candidates and incumbents gonna do because Lieutenant Owens is here. I'm very impressed with him. And that is very unlikely for me, to be honest with y'all, to sit here and be that much impressed with a law enforcement officer, except for a few that have saved my life. And for him to come here and speak this openly and transparent about the corruption and facing it and mending it, but saying, nah, we're at a different turn. We're at a turn of events. We got a different chief, Chief Benny, who I have my own innuendos. Y'all don't heard me talk about Chief Benny. Gave me that murder charge. Y'all hear me talk about him bad. But he's telling me that he's getting on the right foot. A lot of us getting older. We ready for change? He says we are. He says they're changing at the police department. So community, you heard it for yourself. They want the citizen review board. We want the citizen review board. So we're on common ground as far as that is concerned. I think that it's time for us to go and take some of these free classes. They got the key words free. They got free classes for y'all women. Now don't come beating us up because we're going to call them to come get you. You come beating us up after they teach you how to beat us up. We're going to call them to come get you. But the other thing is, they said that they're willing to work with other organizations and work with about our youth and all. He's homegrown. I asked him, could we come visit the training center? Would he take me personally? If we have problems with a police officer, my last and final question to you, I'm going to get your cell number. I don't want you to get there, but I'm going to get your cell number before you go. If we have problems with a police officer, can I call you personally and say, hey, Lieutenant Owens, this one here bad now. You got a bad apple in your bunch. And file a complaint so you have something to go on.
So our policy is that if you give me a complaint against an officer, I am required to forward that to internal affairs. So either I can give you my number or I can give you the number to internal affairs because they're going to be the ones who investigate it. It won't be me. But I'll place to you that if Chief Benny sees an issue, if there is a problem brought to his attention, he is not going to sweep it under the rug. He is going to handle it because he wants every officer under his command to be professional, be courteous, and be right under the law.
So I push back on internal affairs because they don't never answer the phone. And I know you done heard that for more than me. So I'd rather have your number, so I got a direct contact with somebody.
Okay.
Because I am really, really happy to see the fact that y'all want the same thing that we want in the community. Give me your last and final words, Lieutenant.
We want a safe community, and we want you to be able to go outside, mow your grass. We want the kids to be able to play in the yard without the fear that somebody's going to come take their bicycle. Somebody's not going to break into your home. There's not going to be shootings. And the only way that we do that is with community help. And I invite the community right now, get involved, call us. If it is a violation of law, we're gonna take care of that. If it's something that we can't handle, we will try to forward you to the best resource possible. We want to be there to help it because 95% of our job is giving information, right? Don't know who to contact, don't know what to do, call one of us and we'll get you to the right place.
Let me say this, y'all pray for me. I'm at a bittersweet moment right now because y'all kept a hearing and Ms. Ruth and her and Nikki that intervened in my case alluding to the fact of what happened to me in the Dothan Police Department. So I'm really at a bittersweet moment trying to set aside my personal issues in my community advocacy. And I'm at a bittersweet moment because I have to listen to this man tell me that they want us to unify. They want us to have a cohesion between the police department and the community. I know from personally that has not been so in the past. I can't fight him right now when he's saying that it's different now in the present and the future. So y'all pray for me. This is Dr. Kenneth Glasgow, Kenneth Sharp Glasgow. And this is It Is Raw. Adopted from Ron Wilson. My time is up. I thank you for yours. Community, we have a job to do. Our agenda been set. Let's move.